Welcome to Crackling Rosie True Crime. I'm Crackling Rosie. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. You are part of our Crackling Crime crew. We have been deep diving into the Wisconsin versus Chandler Halderson case, and today the jury deliberated and returned just a few hours later with a guilty verdict on all charges. We're going to take a look at that video, but before that, let's get started with our little intro. Thank you for tuning in to Crackling Rosie, where we are covering the Chandler Halderson case. Chandler Halderson is accused of killing his parents, Bart and Krista Halderson, then dismembering and disposing of their bodies. Halderson, 23, is facing 2 counts each of first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, hiding a corpse, and providing false information to police. Bail was set at $1 million July 15, 2021. Chandler reported his parents missing July 7, 2021. He was arrested July 8th on charges of lying to officials. He told investigators that his parents never returned from a 4th of July weekend trip. Within days, their mutilated remains were found in separate rural areas. Dane County Assistant DA William Brown alleged that Halderson killed his parents after his dad found out he was lying about attending college. Halderson is currently being tried in Dane County Circuit Court, Wisconsin. Thank you for joining Crackling Rosie True Crime. Deep dive into this case with us.
Did the jury reach verdicts on all counts in this matter?
We did.
Could you please give Randy the folder? The verdict form on count 1, as signed by the presiding juror and dated today, reads, "We, the jury, find the defendant Chandler M. Halderson guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as to Bart A. Halderson, as charged in count 1 of the amended information. As to the verdict form for count 2, as signed and dated, we, the jury, find the defendant Chandler M. Halderson guilty of providing false information about a missing person as to Bart A. Halderson, as charged in count 2 of the amended information. Verdict form for count 3, as signed and dated, reads, we, the jury, find the defendant Chandler M. Halderson guilty of mutilating a corpse as to Bart A. Halderson, as charged in count 3 of the amended information. Verdict form for count 4, as signed and dated, reads, we, the jury, find the defendant Chandler M. Halderson guilty of hiding a corpse as to Bart A. Halderson, as charged in count 4 of the amended information. The verdict form for count 5, as signed and dated, reads, we, the jury, find the defendant Chandler M. Halderson guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as to Krista R. Halderson, as charged in count 5 of the amended information. The verdict form for count 6, as signed and dated by the foreperson, reads, we, the jury, find the defendant Chandler M. Halderson guilty of providing false information about a missing person as to Krista R. Halderson, as charged in count 6 of the amended information. The verdict form as to count 7, as signed and dated, reads, we, the jury, find the defendant Chandler M. Halderson guilty of mutilating a corpse as to Krista R. Halderson, as charged in count 7 of the amended information. And finally, the verdict form for count 8, as signed and dated, reads, "We, the jury, find the defendant, Chandler M. Halderson, guilty of hiding a corpse as to Krista R. Halderson, as charged in count 8 of the amended information." I will note for the record that the jury also returned the 8 verdict forms that read not guilty and that those do not bear any signature or date, as well as returning the jury instructions. Let me inquire of you, and I'll use initials. Ms. B, are the verdicts which I read the verdicts with which you agreed?
Yes.
Mr. Daringer, are those the verdicts with which you agreed?
Yes.
Mr. H, are those the verdicts with which you agreed?
Yes, they are.
Mr. M, are those the verdicts with which you agreed?
Yes, sir.
I do not need to ask the foreperson as his signature appeared on the verdicts. Ms. C, Mr. C, are those the verdicts with which you agreed?
Yes, they were.
Ms. W, are those the verdicts with which you agreed?
Yes, sir.
Mr. M, are those the verdicts with which you agreed?
Yes, sir.
Mr. H, are those the verdicts with which you agreed?
Yes.
Mr. A, are those the verdicts with which you agreed?
Yes.
Mr. J, are those the verdicts with which you agreed?
Yes.
And finally, Mr. B, are those the verdicts with which you agreed?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, you have finished your service here as the jury in this case. I have to tell you that words are difficult to come with to express the gratitude that I feel and that I believe those people within the criminal justice system which we serve feel regarding the time and concentration and sacrifices which you gave for this process. It's not just the days that we were here in court. Unusually in this case, we spent a number of days away from here, and yet you still followed your oath, the directions I gave you, and you were committed wholly and wholeheartedly to this process, and I thank you. I'll be happy to meet with you after I'm finished here in the courtroom if you wish to stay, and please go with our thanks and gratitude. Randy?
All right, for the jury.
So there we go. So, guilty on all charges. If you've been following this case, that's probably the verdict that you've been hoping for. But maybe this case is a little bit newer for you. So I have a few archived media clips from Channel 3000 Wisconsin, dated back to about July 2021 when these crimes took place. So let's take a look at that.
Officials are still searching for this couple, Bart and Krista Halderson. Now, there are a lot of questions about the Dane County couple's disappearance that we are working to get some answers to, but tonight, police aren't saying much, and that led us to the couple's son, who says he's just as confused as investigators. Adam Duxter spoke with that man today. He's here now with what he learned. Adam?
Well, Eric, Chandler Halderson lives with his parents in the village of Windsor and says another unknown couple picked them up early Friday morning before he was awake. And tonight we're left to wonder what happened to Bart and Krista Halderson.
Brett Schuster says his usually quiet street is busier than ever since last night.
I pulled in. There was a couple of sheriffs out there. Then 2 hours later, there's 3 or 4 detectives there. As we saw the detectives enter the house, that's where we knew there's something going on inside Bart's house.
Shortly after, the Dane County Sheriff's Office shared this photo of Bart and Krista Halderson. Police say the couple had planned to go to their cabin in Langlade County. Their son, Chandler, asked not to be shown on camera, but he told us he didn't see his parents leave and added they didn't drive themselves.
They were picked up by their friends, who I never got the name of, and I assumed it was someone I was aware of, the close neighbors of theirs up the street, or their best friends down on the east side. So that's what I assumed. I never really asked any further.
Chandler says he assumed his parents had turned off their phones to avoid roaming charges, and it wasn't until after the holiday weekend ended that he got nervous.
Because this weekend it was packed. I get that. Packed. Maybe the weather wasn't great for messaging.
Tonight, Dane County Sheriff's Office says there are too many unanswered questions to say anything, while Langlade County Sheriff's Office wouldn't confirm they're helping in a search. Police instead spending today interviewing neighbors, like Brett Schuster himself.
Just shocked. I mean, it's odd, though. Everything that seems, it's odd and shocking that, you know, you never expect or anticipate seeing something that, especially that close to your house. I hope everything works out and it's just a misunderstanding with communication and comes pulling in the driveway any minute.
And Chandler Halderson says for his parents to leave, even with another person, does happen from time to time. But he tells me another family member went to that cabin to check out cell service and was able to get through.
Hopefully we'll get some answers soon. Adam Duxer reporting. Adam, thank you.
The search for a missing mother is over tonight. The Dane County Sheriff confirms both Krista and Bart Halderson are dead, and another homicide charge is being recommended against their son. This has been a long and complex investigation for officers. Brady Mallory shares the timeline on this case.
Well, the Haldersons were last seen a month ago at their home in Windsor. Their son Chandler reported them missing on July 7th, telling police his parents never returned home from a trip up north. Well, then on July 10th, dismembered remains belonging to Bart were discovered in rural Dane County. Then 2 days later, Chandler was charged with first-degree homicide in his father's death. Authorities remained hopeful that they would find Krista alive, but on July 14th, they found more human remains in the town of Roxbury. And just today, the sheriff says that those remains belong to Krista, and he plans to pursue a second homicide charge against Chandler. Naomi Coles was there today when the sheriff gave an update on the case. Naomi?
Police have been searching a lot of places since this investigation started, and these new remains were found right on the Halderson property. That's new. All the remains found up until now were on land that was 20 or 30 minutes away from the home. These have not been identified, and the search continues.
This has been a time-consuming and exhaustive investigation. Although significant progress has been made, this is still an ongoing and very active investigation.
There's no other suspects at this time, and you're encouraged to call the sheriff's office with any information you might have. We still don't know much about a possible motive, but new court documents with the expected charges in Krista's death could possibly shed more light on what we know so far. Chandler has since been bound over for trial for the charges filed in his father's death.
And topping our news, the man accused of killing his parents and dismembering their bodies has pleaded not guilty.
Charlotte DeLeste has the latest from the courtroom. Charlotte?
23-year-old Chandler Halderson entered not guilty pleas to 8 counts in a short hearing this morning in Dane County Court. In the death of his parents, Bart and Krista Halderson, Chandler is facing 2 counts of each of the following: first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, hiding a corpse, and providing false information on kidnapped missing persons. He is scheduled to be back in court next month, with his trial expected to begin in January. Chandler was first charged with killing his father in mid-July, just 3 days after Bart's remains were identified. He wasn't charged in his mom's death until late August, nearly a month after his mom's remains were found.
So there you go, the guilty verdict and a little bit of the backstory. I'm going to try to play a little media clip that I have for you with a little bit of highlights from the actual trial, and I will reconvene with you tomorrow for a deeper dive into the trial day by day. So these were the charges, if you were not familiar. They are both the same for Bart Halderson, which was his father, and Krista Halderson, his mother. Count 1, first-degree intentional homicide. Count 2, false information on kidnapped or missing persons. Count 3, mutilating a corpse. Count 4, hiding a corpse. So the same charges both for the mother and father. William Brown, the deputy DA, defense team, Mitchell Halderson, Chazzy checking surveillance, the ex-girlfriend Kat, the interrogation or the interview, the axe. Let me hold this. This we will deep dive into tomorrow. There was video forensics done And if you're familiar with the case, you will know the story of the fireplace. I'm not going to get too deep into the details. I just wanted to cover some basics tonight and share that guilty verdict with you. But when we deep dive tomorrow, we're going to be covering this. So please join us. Smith, this is Chandler's friend who gifted him the rifle. Another ex. So if you're new to the case and would like to take a deeper dive with me, visit our channel and check out our playlist, Wisconsin versus Chandler Halderson. And there are videos there which will get you a little bit caught up. And I hope to see you all tomorrow. Thank you for sharing this short time with me. Good night from Crackling Rosie.